So I just turned 41 and I have more energy, better health, and a better body than I did in my 20s. And it's not from dieting or hours of cardio or perfect genetics or anything like that. It's because of 9 simple habits that I follow every single day. And so in this video, I'm sharing the 9 daily habits that keep me lean year-round, feeling great, and living life without obsessing about food or fitness. Now, in 2015, my habits looked more like a what not to do list. I was smoking, I was drinking too much, I was eating junk food, I was staying up way too late. And over time, I built up these 9 habits that turned my life and my health completely around. And so whether you are in your 30s or you're in your 40s or in your 50s, I know that these can help you too. And so with that said, let's go ahead and dive into number 1. Number 1 is going to bed and waking up early. And you'll notice if you look at the setting here, it's dark. That's because it's really early in the morning. The sun's not even up yet, and my kids and my wife are sleeping, but I'm up. I was up at 4 a.m. today, and it's, as of the making of this video, it is 5:56 a.m. And I have already hydrated with a hydration cocktail, taken a hot shower followed by a 6-minute cold shower. I've gotten ready. I'm having my coffee. I have already meditated and journaled and set out my to-do list for the day. And this is the main reason why going to bed early at night and getting up early every morning is so effective and so important for me. It's really 2 main reasons. Number 1, when I do stay up late, I'm not usually doing anything of real value in my life. If I stay up late, it's usually because I'm sitting on the couch, doom scrolling on social media, or watching some kind of Netflix movie or show, or doing something like that. Sure, I enjoy those things, but if I stay up too late, it causes me to have to sleep in order to keep up with a healthy amount of sleep. And then that puts me behind for the whole rest of the day. And then I'm stressed. I feel like I'm chasing my tail, and it's just not a good situation. So by going to bed early, that prevents me from wasting time doing all those things, allows me to get into bed at a decent hour so that I can actually get up at 4 a.m. like I do Monday through Friday, and I can get an incredible start on the day. And I can have time to do my own self-care routines as far as hydrating and showering and having some coffee and a meditation and journaling for my mental health, doing my to-do list for the day. And I actually have time to get work done, like making this YouTube video for you guys, before the rest of my house even wakes up. And so that just puts me on an incredible path for the whole rest of the day, which means I'm not going to be struggling to find time to take some short walks throughout the day to get my steps in. Or I'm not gonna feel guilty about taking 30 minutes to go out to my garage and to do a workout because I've gotten up early and I've got a great start on the day. So that's why this is habit number 1, because me going to bed at a decent hour and getting up early is what really enables me to better execute on all of the other habits that are in this list. So practically speaking, what I do, in case you want to know and you want to duplicate this in your own life, is I actually have an alarm clock on my phone that goes off every night at 8:30 p.m. And that's my alarm clock that tells me that it's time to get ready for bed. And then what I will do at 8:30 p.m. is I will mix up my hydration drinks for the morning for me and my wife. I'll usually whip up some kind of a bedtime protein-based snack, which lately for me is a pint of protein ice cream that I make in the Ninja Creamy using a recipe from my cookbook. And I will take those hydration drinks and my pint of ice cream up to bed, usually around 9. I will eat that whole pint of protein ice cream in bed, and then I will turn off the lights by ideally 9:30. Sometimes it's 10, but I really shoot for 9:30 p.m. and then I'm out. And then my alarm clock goes off at 4 a.m. So practically that's how I like to execute that. I think that's enough about this. Let's move on to number 2. Number 2 is hydrating with electrolytes, at least 2 to 3 times a day. This one is just really important because it is what allows me to have good energy and good cognition, just so I can perform throughout the day. A lot of people think that, especially when they wake up first thing in the morning or as they're going throughout their day, that when they're tired, it's because they need food. And most of the time, it actually has nothing to do with food, especially if you're trying to lose weight. If you're trying to lose weight, you're trying to get yourself into a calorie deficit. And it's because you have all sorts of energy stored on your body in the form of fat, and you're trying to lose that body fat. So when you feel tired, it's usually not because you lack energy in the form of fuel like fat or carbohydrate. Most of the time when you feel tired, it's because you're not optimally hydrated with electrolytes. Your body actually needs both water and electrolytes together in the right ratio to manage properly things like blood pressure and blood volume, nerve signaling and different things like that, so that you can have the physical sensations of feeling energetic and spunky, and you can have good cognition, and you can feel like you're able to perform at your best. That energy surfaces as a feeling of motivation when you need to go and do your steps or go and do your strength workout or get up and go and do something like make a healthy meal. That's why this one is so high on the list, is because when I'm not hydrating properly with electrolytes 2 to 3 times a day, I don't feel energetic, and I lack that feeling, that physical feeling of energetic motivation. How do I do this? So what I do is I utilize my own recipe for what I call a hydration cocktail. And this is also what we teach all of our clients in the program at Healthy and Whole. And essentially what you do is you take a 32 to a 40 ounce water bottle and you put somewhere between a 1/4 teaspoon and a 1/2 teaspoon of pink Himalayan salt into that water bottle with that water. And then usually just add in whatever water flavoring that you want that is low in calorie. And then I also like to add an 1/8 teaspoon of potassium chloride powder. And when you dose a hydration drink with these components, essentially what you're doing is you're making a poor man's element or a poor man's liquid IV. So liquid IV and element are the two probably most popular hydration drink mixes on the market right now. And so if you were to use 1/4 teaspoon of pink Himalayan salt in your hydration cocktail, that's gonna dose it right in alignment with the 500 milligrams of sodium that's in liquid IV. And if you dose with closer to a 1/2 teaspoon of pink Himalayan salt, that's gonna dose you closer to the 1,000 milligrams of sodium that is in a packet of element. And then 1/8 teaspoon of potassium chloride powder is going to get you close to that 350 to 400 milligrams of potassium that is also found in a lot of these drink mixes. There you go. That's my recipe for the hydration cocktail that I drink 2 to 3 times a day. I like to have one very, very first thing in the morning. Like as soon as my feet hit the ground, I'm drinking half of my hydration cocktail, my first one for the day. And then I'm jumping in the shower, and then I'm drinking the other half immediately after I get out of the shower, all before I ever get this warm cup of cozy coffee. And then I'll usually have another one late morning, early afternoon, usually either right before or after lunch. And if I'm being very active or I'm sweating a lot, maybe it's due to going for a run or doing a strength training workout, then I'll oftentimes have a third one in the early evening or late afternoon. And if I do this, it keeps my physical sensation of energy and having good cognition really at a peak, and I can perform and I don't get those energy slumps or those times like the post-lunch fatigue that set in. The hydration really keeps all of that at bay, and it keeps me feeling my best. Number 3 is I like to walk a minimum of 8,000 steps a day. And this also factors into why I like to get up so early in the day. So when I get up early and I get everything done that I need to get done very early in the day, then it allows me a little bit of time before I really get into the bulk of my day to get a good amount of steps in so that I know that I'm going to hit that 8,000 steps a day. Now there's a lot of days that I might get 10,000 or 12,000 or even 15,000 steps, especially if it's a day where I've gone on a longer run. But 8,000 steps is my minimum standard that I shoot for pretty much every day. And the reason that I shoot for that minimum standard of 8,000 is because 8,000 is a good number that allows me to know that I'm burning a decent amount of calories every day so that I can eat an appreciable amount of food every day. If I get less than 8,000 steps a day, and I see this with our clients at Healthy and Whole as well, if I'm trying to cut weight, for instance, then I have to cut my food to an uncomfortably low level because I have a low level of calorie output. But if I can hit at least 8,000 steps a day, then I can eat a little bit more food. It's much more comfortable. And if I get into situations where I'm walking 10, 12, 15,000 steps a day because I'm running or I'm doing just have really active days, then on those days, my body and my metabolism are more tolerant of additional calories without causing undesired fat gain or other things like that. So the daily activity step goal is so crucial for making sure that I have a good baseline metabolism that allows me to eat more food throughout the day versus having to cut to uncomfortable or unsustainable levels of food intake because I'm just not moving. So that's why 8,000 steps a day is my minimum standard, because I find that 8,000 steps for myself and for most of my clients at Healthy and Whole is a good sustainable minimum that allows us to get good results without having to feel like we have to be walking all of the time. Since I get up early, I get ready, I do a little bit of work, and then I get the kids off to school. And then what I will do is right now, I will typically walk for 30 to 45 minutes, walk or run. And that usually will get me to 4,000 to 5,000 steps minimum by 8 a.m. And that's just a really good starting place for the day, because then I know that my incidental steps that I'm gonna get just doing life for the rest of the day are going to get me to the rest of the way to that 8,000 steps per day goal. I like to have it front loaded in the day so that I don't have to worry about it. I don't have to stress about it. I don't like having to realize that it's 7 p.m. or 8 p.m. and it's almost time for bed and I'm 2,000 steps away from hitting my step goal. So that's why I like to really front load it at the start of my day so that I don't have to stress about it later in the day. Now, in other seasons of my life where I'm just really, really busy or I have a lot going on, sometimes instead of front loading it in my day, I will break that 30 to 45 minutes up into smaller blocks that I will tackle at other points of the day. So instead of walking for 30 to 45 minutes in one go, I will break it up into 3 15-minute stints, and I'll do a 15-minute walk earlier in the day so that I can jump right into work. And then I'll do about a 15-minute block either right before or after lunch. And then I'll do another 15-minute block usually right before or after dinner. And therefore I'm getting the same 30 to 45 minutes of walking or running in. I'm just breaking it up into smaller chunks so it feels maybe less disruptive to my day. But no matter what, I am going to make sure that 80% of the time I am walking 8,000 steps. Let's move on to number 4. Number 4 is to strength train 2 to 3 times a week. You could strength train more than 2 to 3 times a week, but again, I'm always thinking in terms of sustainability and minimum standards to get the ideal result. And the ideal result is going to vary from person to person. If you're someone who wants to have an elite level physique, meaning that you carry more muscle than the average person, you are leaner and more cut than the average person, maybe that you want to look like some level of a model or a fitness model or a physique competitor, then you're probably going to be working out more than 2 or 3 times a week. If you're like me and your desire is to be pretty lean, to have some muscle on your body, right? You don't want to feel scrawny or skinny. You want to have good definition when you are in a bathing suit at the beach. You want to look and feel good in your clothes, and you want to feel and function in a good way. Then you can get that result strength training just 2 to 3 times a week if those are 2 to 3 good strength training sessions done in the right way. So again, I'm always looking at sustainability, and I'm always thinking about what's the minimum standard that I can adhere to still get the result that I want, but it is going to be sustainable. So 2 to 3 times a week is what I do, and it's what we shoot for with all of our clients in the Healthy and Whole program. Strength training is super important for a couple of reasons. A lot of people think that strength training is another component that you use for fat loss. And what I tell people is that strength training is actually not a tool that we want to super hyper focus on for fat loss. Strength training is better used as a tool to optimize the long-term end goal of body composition, having that toned look when we get to our goal body composition or our goal weight range. Because if we try to lose any appreciable amount of body fat over an appreciable amount of time and we're not strength training, then in the process of losing that body weight, a lot of that body weight will be loss of muscle mass, which means that when you get to your goal, you get to this weight range that you thought you wanted to live in, you might not be 100% satisfied with how you look. You might feel like you look skinny fat or that you don't look toned, or that you have additional loose skin that you might not have otherwise had if you would have been consistently strength training through that process, so that you could maintain or even build a little bit of muscle mass through that fat loss process, so that the end result could look, feel, and function better than if you had not. So that's the main reason that I really focus on strength training personally and with my clients, is because the end result is so dependent on that. Now, the second reason does boil down to metabolism. Muscle mass is the tissue on our bodies that burns the most calories. Fat burns some calories, but muscle is the most metabolically active tissue on our body. So the more muscle we have, the higher our resting metabolism is going to be. And the higher our metabolism overall is, the more food we can eat to lose weight, maintain weight, or to put on weight if that's our goal. And we all love food. I love food. And I don't ever want to be in a situation, I don't ever want one of my clients to be in a situation where they simply cannot eat the kind of food or enjoy food in the way that they want to, because their metabolism is so low that it just gets in the way of their goals, right? So two main reasons that strength training 2 to 3 times a week minimum is my minimum standard, and the standard that we shoot for clients, is we want the end result, the look, feel, function, tone, all of that to be what we envision in our head. And we get that through strength training. And also we want to preserve and optimize our metabolism by preserving and optimizing muscle mass through that fat loss phase of our journey as well. Let's move on to number 5. Number 5 is relatively new to me, and that is doing 15 to 30 minutes of zone 2 cardio 2 to 3 times per week at a minimum, right? And so this whole addition of zone 2 cardio for me is now in the form of running. I have always been someone up until 2025 who said, I don't do cardio. And in fact, I kind of took pride in the fact that I was able to accomplish my own physical results and get great results with our clients without having to do any cardio. Like no running, no high intensity interval training sessions, no elliptical work, none of that. And I think that's amazing, because we do want our fat loss results to be sustainable and based on the minimum possible effort, so that we can maintain it for as long as possible, as easily as possible. But there is no arguing that zone 2 cardio or some higher intensity cardio is extremely helpful for long-term health and longevity. And now that I'm 41 years old and I have 2 kids and a third on the way, more than ever, I am thinking about the long-term vision for my life. I'm thinking about the fact that I want to be here for my kids and for my wife as long as possible. And I don't just want to be here, I want to be here and I want to be really functional. I want to be at my best. I want to be energetic. I want to be able to go and do things for as long as possible. And so zone 2 cardio, even sometimes zone 3, 4, 5, doing some higher intensity cardio and working that into my routine every week has now become something that I'm very passionate about, but not for fat loss. It's all for optimizing my longevity and my health overall. So what this looks like for me is, like I said, I will typically set aside 30 to 45 minutes in the morning times right now to do either a walk or a run. And so on the days where I am running, that's where this zone 2 cardio comes into play for me. Some days it's just going for anywhere from a 1 to a 3 or 4 mile easy run at a slower pace. And on those days, my goal is to just keep my heart rate between about 125 and 140, because that's what zone 2 is for me. And then on other days, I am challenging myself to go at a faster pace, and I'm okay with my heart rate getting up a little bit higher. By adding this in 3 to 4 days a week, what I have found is my overall health has improved dramatically. My blood work has improved. My Apple Watch that tells me how my resting heart rate is looking and my VO2 max scores are looking, all that data, and I could probably throw up a couple screenshots here, is improving because I started running about 3 or 4 months ago. And it's super cool to see this data and these metrics getting better. And I feel it. I feel more energetic. I feel healthier. I think I feel and look younger than I did before I was running. For me, and again, I'm always really stress this with our clients and with everybody out there, doing higher intensity cardio and strength training both are not tools we want to rely on for fat loss. We want our food and our steps to drive fat loss rates. But strength training and higher intensity cardio have an essential spot in our lives for longevity and optimal performance and function. That is just something we can't get around, right? So 2 to 3 days of this at a minimum are my minimum standards. And I will usually shoot for, on my running days, some days it's just 1 mile for about 12 to 15 minutes. And some days it's a 3, 4, maybe even a 5 mile run. All right, so let's move on to number 6, and that is to eat healthy meals and snacks 80% of the time. So, we've talked about hydrating and walking 8,000 steps a day and strength training 2 to 3 times a week. And now we're talking about throwing in some cardio and some things like that. But if you're really focused on fat loss, honestly, none of that matters if the food that you're eating on a daily basis is not dialed in to get you results and to be aligned with your long-term goals for your health. And so for me, my standard is that 80% of the time, I want to make sure that my meals and snacks that I'm eating on a daily basis fit the standards that are going to get me and help me maintain the results that are important to me. And again, my goals and my results that I look for with my health is I want to stay strong, I want to stay lean. That way I can feel confident about how I look and feel, and I can feel energetic and all that stuff. So for me, 80% of the time, I'm making sure that my day-to-day eating is a minimum of about 40% protein. I want it to be very, very high protein, typically looking to make sure that I'm at least at maintenance calories unless I'm in a cut, in which I'm making sure that I'm in a calorie deficit. And that's 80% of the time. Now, the other 20% of the time, I am letting loose. That's where I might have a cheat meal, or, I went on a trip to Miami with my wife, Joni, here recently, and we walked down to the Publix and we got an entire key lime pie, and we split the entire key lime pie in our hotel room because we were on vacation and it was just a fun thing that we wanted to do. That fits into that 20%, right? And generally speaking, I have found that if I am sticking to my diet 80% of the time, and my clients are doing that as well, then we can get great results. The 20% of the time that we're off, so to speak, is not going to make or break what we're doing. Number 7 is having a self-care morning routine. Now, right now, what I am doing is something called the Miracle Morning Routine, which comes from a book called The Miracle Morning by an author named Hal Elrod. And the Miracle Morning is essentially where Hal teaches you to take 6 different practices that he calls the savers, and to combine them together into a very high-powered morning routine that is great for personal growth, great for maintaining good mental health, and just good for helping you to stay clear and aligned with your goals and your vision for your life, and so that you can just execute on a daily basis in alignment with your goals and your values, okay? And so every morning, as a part of my routine as I'm getting up, I get up, I hydrate, I shower, I get ready, I come downstairs, I grab my coffee, and I sit down right here at this desk. I will go through a Miracle Morning routine that involves some combination of meditation with some affirmations and some visualization in there. I will also incorporate some reading, whether it's from a devotional or another audiobook or another book of some kind from a personal growth standpoint that I'm reading. And also I will do some journaling as well. And so typically this can range from anywhere from 5 to 10 minutes on up to 15 to 20 minutes for me. And I cannot stress the life-changing importance that this one habit has had in my life. It's not for me just about making sure that I am executing on my goals and doing things like that. I have actually found, and I've told my students and taught this to my students as well, I've actually found that twice in my life, doing this Miracle Morning routine has been able to pull me literally out of depression and out of a season of high anxiety. It's really fixed my mental health twice in my life. I think about back in the 2013, 2014, 2015 period, I was really depressed and just kind of beaten down by life. I found this book, The Miracle Morning by Hal Elrod, and I was at rock bottom, so I didn't have anything to lose. And so I decided to read the book, and I decided to just say screw it and implement the Miracle Morning routine. And guys, it completely changed my life to the point where I now call this morning routine, I call it my antivirus for my soul. And like a computer, if you don't run antivirus software on it, over time it gets just bogged down and it slows down and eventually it just stops working altogether. And I feel like that's how I am. If I am not doing a morning routine such as the Miracle Morning, where I'm doing some meditation to calm my thoughts and to control my thoughts, and some positive affirmations to help me with my self-talk, and some visualization to get me excited about what I'm building for the future, and some journaling, which for me is like therapy. It's like helping to get what's inside out on the page and help me to find clarity around my thoughts and my beliefs. When I do this every day, it's like running daily antivirus software for my soul. And it really it's just everything. The version of Matt that we get when he is not doing this part of my daily habits versus the version you get when I am doing it is a night and day difference. And so whether you buy the Miracle Morning by Hal Elrod and you implement his Miracle Morning routine, or you download an app like Heroic and you implement their version of a high-powered morning routine, or you find some other routine that really works for you, it doesn't matter. What matters most is that I think that you just commit to having even just 10 minutes, 10 to 15 minutes a morning that you set aside for a real deep work self-care routine. And if I could tell you just the 4 things that would probably move the needle the most out of all the things to incorporate, it would be to just take 10 minutes a day to do some meditation, some affirmations, some visualization, and some journaling. I find that those 4 things together really are a magical combination that just work wonders for helping a human being to stay in a good mental space, helping me to process life as it happens to me and around me in a way that does not keep me or allow me to get bogged down in my heart and in my mind with negative self-talk or negative self-beliefs and things like that. So that's number 7. Some kind of a miracle morning routine has changed my life, and I think it can for you as well. Number 8 is that I like to limit myself to predominantly positive media only. And so what this looks like for me is I limit myself to only about a maximum of 10 minutes a day of any media consumption that is not a personal development book or audiobook or a podcast that I am learning and growing from, or a devotional, or reading the Bible, or something that is really enriching and growing me. The other 10 minutes that I limit myself to a day, that's the time that if I want to get on Facebook and doom scroll, I can do it. If I want to catch up on some world news about politics and what's going on in the world, I can do that. But I limit that to 10 minutes a day. And a lot of days, I don't even engage with it at all. And the reason for that is because it's just all so toxic. And it's driving no real value in my life. I can't control anything that's going on in the world of politics or the larger machinations of the world. But what I can control is my daily habits. I can control my schedule for the day. I can control what I create and who I serve. I can control the food that goes into my body, the exercise that I choose to do, the books that I choose to read. So for me, I have found that for my mental health and for staying and living in alignment with my goals and values, one of the best things that I ever did was just to choose to disconnect from the matrix, so to speak, just to pull myself out of the feedback loop of toxic social media content that is out there, to get off that merry-go-round, so to speak. It has allowed me to sort of stay above the fray, stay above all that toxicity, just to stay present and to be the best version of me that I possibly can be for my wife and my kids and my clients and the rest of my family. And so I just feel so much better when I am curating my media consumption to only positive media and really limiting anything negative or toxic to a very, very, very small amount. And for me, that's just 10 minutes a day. Now, number 9, last but not least, has more to do with how I seek to prioritize my life and to stay organized so that I know that I'm living in alignment with my goals and my values on a daily basis. I don't know about you guys, but I find it very, very easy to just get swept away in the craziness of life. There's just so many opportunities to take on new things to do and new responsibilities, and to get roped in with people requesting me to join their cause or to help them out with this or help them out with that. And that's all good, but when I allow myself to get swept away by all that stuff, I find myself being spread too thin. I find myself being very stressed out, and that's not a good thing, right? So what I have found to be an extremely helpful habit for me, and this is number 9, is what I call 3x3 living. And that is that at any one given time in my life, I want to be clear on what are my top 3 priorities in my life in this season. And then each day, I want to ideally have anywhere from 1 to 3 tasks or action items that I'm going to really focus on in that day that I feel will honor those top 3 priorities. So for example, right now in my life, my top 3 priorities are my body and my health, my family, and my work. Now, there are all sorts of other things that I care about. There are all sorts of other things that I can choose to allot my time and my focus to, and I do to some degree. But generally speaking, me going through my day, every day knowing that my health, my family, and my work are my top 3 priorities right now in this season allows me to be very clear when I'm making decisions about what I say yes to and what I say no to, and about what I choose to do with my time today and what I choose not to do with my time today. And this just really quiets all that noise about, well, should I do this or should I not do this? It just really gives me a very quick decision-making framework to say, okay, this is the amount of time I have in a 24-hour period. These are my top 3 priorities right now. If I get a request from someone else to do something outside of that, I can simply ask myself, is there bandwidth to do this? Is it going to distract from or negatively impact my top 3 priorities right now? And if the answer is yes, then it's a no. And if the answer is no, there's time, I can make it fit without negatively sabotaging my top 3 priorities, then it's a maybe or a yes. And sometimes it's a yes, comma, but. Like, yes, I can do this, but I'm not going to have time until next week, or I'm only going to be able to devote this much time to it. And so I just love having this clarity every day about what is truly important to me so that I don't just kind of find myself getting spread too thin and getting stressed out all of the time. So we've been through all 9. A lot of you are going to be asking, what do I do with this list? And so I want you to think of this list as more of a treasure map, not a to-do list. Sure, the more of these habits that you can do consistently in your life, the more positive the impact will be. But trying to nail them all down at once is probably not going to work. So remember, it took me months and years to build this list into my own life. And so that being said, many of these could be implemented very quickly. Focus on picking just 1 or 2 to start with, and then build from there. And remember, this is a marathon and not a sprint. Build one habit at a time, keep what works, and let the results compound over time. And if you want help making all of this sustainable as quickly as possible, then check out the video right here, and I'll cover the 10 steps of sustainable weight loss that I wish I would have known when I started. And if you haven't subscribed yet, what are you waiting for, right? I'm here at 5 a.m. making this video for you. Please subscribe. I'd love to have you. Hit the like button, all that stuff. I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.